We don't want you to say anything, otherwise it sounds scripted and it sounds like we paid you to say this.
You're a rocks.
You're so funny.
So we have Mr. Jeff Brady here. Jeff, I know before working with us, you had, for people who don't know you, because they might have seen you on the news, you work for ABS or ABC.
Wait, you mean there's people who don't know me already?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Jeff Brady.
So after 20 years in being on the news for CBS, ABC, and the Texas area, I think it was Houston, you decided Dallas. You decided to do
Dallas, all over Texas.
Kind of your own firm for a little bit where you were successful, right? But then I do know you were just looking for something else. So at what point, because I don't know how long it had been, at what point did you say, man, I need help doing this? I can't, I don't even know how to get it, at what point did you say I needed help?
Well, I think I've always been a big advocate of having coaches in my life and advisors, and I'm going through this with my teenage son and saying, hey, you need, you're going to need some people in your life who can be your coaches, not a life coach necessarily, but a doctor. You need regular checkups. You need a mechanic that you can trust to take your car to.
An accountant,
CPA, exactly. A dentist. So, and it was apparent to me that I had reached a point in my career where I needed someone to advise me to optimize my career search, because not only was I had relocated back to Dallas, and so that was a shift, but I was also opening myself up to new career opportunities that were separate and apart from strictly news. And so I knew that I need to find somebody who knew more than I did.
And that's when you were like, hey, is it marketing, communications, public, like, where do you go? And I think that's a struggle too. Like, hey, if you've been in the news forever, like, well, what do I do now,
Right.
Because we talked about it being like most of your identity, prior to this too.
Right.
So
I think that's common for a lot of people, guys. Your ego and your identity gets wrapped up into a job title.
Sure.
I am the CMO. I am the, IT executive, or I'm the sales manager for some large organization. And when that goes away, you can feel lost. You can feel like you're scrambling for something to latch onto that is your identity.
And you're a military veteran too, right? Marine Corps captain, I believe. And, most veterans too, that stay in for 20 years, they come out, and no wonder why they have so struggle. I mean, their identity's been that for 20 years. And really, it's not just a military guy. It could be someone who worked at the same organization for 20 years. They could go through the same thing that the military vet's going through, Right. I mean, being a part of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Jeff, what would you say you found the most valuable working together?
Several things. One is the optimizing my appearance, my digital footprint. That's one thing. And Kara, that's where you were so helpful in getting not only my resume up to speed in terms of using the right keywords, using the right format, and bringing it up to kind of industry standards in terms of what HR personnel tend to look for, how they sort through hundreds of resumes. So optimizing the resume, and then equally important, getting my LinkedIn profile to match that. Sure. So I think that was one thing. I think two, forcing the people in the program to have the discipline to create a list, which is
of just how are we, what companies are we targeting? A lot of people.
Let's be honest, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. And people are lazy. People don't want to do it. They want to take shortcuts. But you force them to say, no, you got to have a list. It's got to be detailed. It's got to be long. You've got to find names. So that's work, but that gives you a landing, like a starting point, a place to start. So that's number two, the discipline of developing that list. And then thirdly, I think there's a lot of therapy that goes on it, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of coaching.
It makes me think, and for anyone that doesn't know, Jeff Brady is now the director of communications, I believe, for the city of Dallas. But before then, when you said that, the therapy, for anyone, who previously watches this, you got to the last round of Chuck E. Cheese, man, when they were going through that crisis. Oh, yeah. And I remember prepping you, and you were perfect.
I'm so glad I didn't get that job.
Exactly. The after effect. But you were perfect for that. And honestly, it was like a new no-brainer. They needed someone who specialized in crisis. You went there, you met everyone. And then, you were a little upset about that. It was like, so.
Plus,
And people need to know that happens. Despite your best efforts, despite your stellar resume, there are going to be rejections. And that's where the therapy comes in. And I'm being a little whimsical, but there is a lot to say for being a part of a group, a team, even if it's digital, of people who are going through the same cycle, the same life cycle. And so you can share best practices, you can commiserate, you can celebrate together, and there's a lot of value in that. So I think the digital footprint is good. The list is huge, and the team aspect, in other words, working with a team of people who are going through the same process at the same time. All of those are very powerful elements of executive upgrades.
Yeah. The other thing too is just making sure, right? Like, it is a lot of work, but if you're trying to be the director of communications for, the city of Dallas, you're trying to be, these more higher level roles, people highly underestimate the amount of people that they need to talk to and the relationships they need to leverage, So, hey, last question for you. What advice would you have for someone who's considering working with us that maybe has just been out there, maybe they're just starting and doesn't have a plan, or maybe they've been in their job search for a little bit, don't have a plan, and are just kind of feeling rejected?
Well, A, you're not alone. B, you're very likely highly talented and highly skilled, but you need a team. You need a coach. And I'll say this, anything that is highly important, anything that really, really matters for your safety and well-being and success requires some guidance and supervision. And again, you talk about, your doctor. You go to your doctor who knows a lot more about health and wellness than you do. You go to your dentist, same thing. You have an auto mechanic who knows the ins and outs of your vehicle. Okay, same thing with your career development. Why would you do that alone? Why would you just say, I'm going to shoot from the hip and I'm going to do whatever, and I'm just going to go out there and see what I can find? No, if it's important, if it matters, if it's significant to your health and career wellness and future, then you probably need to find someone who can help guide your steps, especially at a pivot point where you're in between positions, or you're moving geographically, or you're trying to step up. If you're going to do it and do it right, then you need to invest in someone who can help you do it the right way.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, thanks so much. We really appreciate it. And we wish you the best luck in your new job.
All right. Thanks, guys.